If that Tim Walz that guy got into power, like if Kamala died and Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, was our president, you know how crazy this country would be? That weirdo who puts tampons in the boys' room. And what about our joy? Like, he's a complete pathological liar. Like a complete liar. Lied about being in Tiananmen Square, lied about being head coach of a football team.
That Walz guy, I mean, I don't want to be too unfair because I don't know him and I don't have any hard evidence. He's a weirdo. That guy's weird.
He seems very strange.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
There's something not right about that guy's personal life. So I hope I'm wrong because I don't want people like that with power. But most people I know with power.
Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson just detonated a political firestorm with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz standing squarely in the blast zone in a no-holds-barred showdown the pair tore into. Walz's record with ruthless precision exposing jaw-dropping, failure's pandemic hypocrisy, and a power-hungry overreach that most of the media won't touch. Their takedown wasn't just savage, it was surgical. If you think you've seen political accountability, think again. This explosive clash is shaking the establishment to its core, and Walz may never recover.
One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13.
So for those out there who are wondering, aren't there something else you could be doing or doesn't seem to impact you in your life? This is what it means to show empathy. This is what it means to be welcoming.
He changed the Minnesota state flag to make it look like a...
Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson don't usually agree on much. One is a meat-loving podcast king with a taste for dumb-fueled rants about elk meat and aliens. The other is the buttoned-up poster child for suburban rebellion, staring into the camera like he's trying to reach America's working-class soul by telepathy.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorite.
What is a woman? What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here. What do you want me to say?
I want you to say that a woman like me is an adult human female, that men can't become women. You guys are the party of violence, and you're the party erasing women. You don't respect us. You're a bigot. You're a misogynist. You're a sexist. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
But when it comes to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, these two formed a tag team so devastating that even pro wrestling promoters would have called it too far-fetched. So what triggered this epic political piledriver? It all started with a governor who got a little too comfortable with his emergency powers.
That's the core fact about Walz, which is he presided over, allowed the biggest city in the state to get burned down.
And seemed to not only allow it, but kind of
he liked it.
Support it, you know.
Did you see the video of his wife saying, I kept the windows open so I could smell the burning rubber from the riots?
I could smell the burning tires. And I kept the windows open for as long as I could.
I did not see that.
The wife whose hand he shook?
Oh my God. By the way, picking on a little thing, but who the hell shakes their wife's hand?
Walz, a once mild-mannered figure with the charisma of stale granola, suddenly seemed to think Minnesota was his personal kingdom. Lockdowns, mandates, school closures, economic chokeholds, you name it, Walz enforced it, clipboard in hand and smug grin. In place, rolling out new rules nobody asked for. That's where Rogan and Carlson stepped in.
Walz's descriptions of his military career, because there's some issues there that people have. I don't know if he flat out ever said that he served in Afghanistan, but he certainly didn't dissuade people from saying that he was when they were saying he didn't correct them.
Right.
There was things
he didn't, and he didn't. And you can look at interviews, and there's no pushback. There's no like, excuse me, I didn't go to Iraq. Right.
Exactly.
And I retired, as my unit was deploying. And so
we were retired a couple months before.
Rogan broadcasting from his
fortress of protein shakes and flamethrowers, ripped into Minnesota's COVID policies with the tools. He knows best sarcasm, common sense, and a brand of observational roasting that leaves third-degree burns on reputations. He grilled Walz the way he grills his steaks, loud, intensine, probably shirtless. Double masking outside in a blizzard while eating hot dish, kids learning calculus through Minecraft tutorials while teachers lawyer up over Zoom. You could buy weed but not lift weights at a gym. Rogan called out the insanity in scathing style. Carlson, meanwhile, took a different tack. Calm, collected, and devastating, he stared into the camera with that look that says, "You just threw your freedoms in the toilet and I'm not fishing them out."
Free speech doesn't include hate speech and misinformation.
There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Hey man, you. Because everything that we called misinformation just a few years ago, it's on the front page of the New York Times now that we were lied to.
With surgical precision, Carlson picked apart Walz's entire pandemic playbook page by authoritarian page. He laid out data like a prosecutor's small businesses crushed mental health crises, soaring kids muzzled and falling behind while the education department bragged about equity outcomes. It felt less like commentary and more like a televised public execution. Clips of Rogan's roasts went viral before he could finish a sentence. With memes exploding across social media, the two then turned to crime defunding police, replacing cops with TikTok-trained community engagement squads, skyrocketing carjackings in grocery stores. Installing metal detectors by the frozen peas, they dismantled it all.
I'm the law-abiding grandma that was sentenced to 90 days in jail for opening my business during the shutdowns as a peaceful protest when Minnesota Governor Tim Walz unconstitutionally and illegally shut our businesses down. So my question is, if you were in my situation, would you have done the same thing?
I think what you did is honorable and necessary, and I think that you'll be recorded by someone, maybe silently, as a hero for what you did. Did you serve 90 days?
I served 60.
That's just incredible to me. Let me just say that Walz and every other governor who did anything like that is a monster, and I think on some level he will be punished.
As Minnesotans begged for safety, Walz responded with a 7-6-page reimagining community, well-being plan featuring meditation seminars, and maybe a sternly worded letter or repeat offenders. Rogan went ballistic. You could loot stores and torch buildings and call it mostly peaceful, but reopen a gym and you'd get fined like a tax cheat. Carlson followed up with the cold fury of a disappointed dad, showing neighborhoods in decline, smashed storefronts, and families fleeing Minnesota like the last helicopter out of Saigon. His message was crystal clear. Tim Walz wasn't governing. He was an overpromoted school principal who'd lost control of the lunchroom and decided to ban pizza instead.
And people call you a Nazi.
Did not see it coming.
There's video of Tim Walz doing the exact same thing.
Right.
And
yes.
he said, of course, it's a Nazi salute. This is how crazy things have gotten. Like,
it's coordinated propaganda. They all say the same thing at the same time, using the same phrases. They don't even bother picking up a thesaurus. The Dem leadership issue their instructions, and their puppets carry it out.
Then came education. Minnesota once took pride in its public schools. Under Walz, though, classrooms turned into ideological dodgeball arenas. Kids weren't learning to read, they were learning to center their emotional truth while reflecting on systemic paradigms. Math, who needs it when there's interpretive dance? Rogan, a father himself, erupted. Your kid can't read but knows how to identify microaggressions in a coloring book. That's not education, that's therapy with homework. He even joked at Minnesota. Kids were probably using ChatGPT to do their homework because they didn't trust the curriculum. Carlson calmly pointed out that while test scores tanked, millions were spent on consultants to dismantle educational hierarchies, code for making sure nobody learns anything but everyone feels good about it.
Just to descend into the political for a second, what do you make of that pick? How's that going?
I was somewhat surprised by it. I didn't think
I would have bet money Shapiro was getting it.
Yeah, I thought they kind of sent the signals over the last couple weeks that he was out, but I was assuming Mark Kelly was going to be the guy because he's from what I understood, they were friendly with Harris. He's got kind of this thing where his wife was shot and he's an astronaut.
Seeing Rogan and Carlson align on anything is like watching a UFC fighter high five a prep school debate champ, but Walz's nanny state turned them into heat-seeking political missiles. It all started with pandemic flashbacks where Walz took emergency powers and spun them into a year-long circus. One moment you could walk your dog, the next you'd get a ticket for sitting too close to someone at a park 6 feet apart next to a lake. Permission slip optional. Rogan pounced, calling Minnesota's rules a COVID-themed escape room dreamed up by bureaucrats who'd never seen sunlight. You could grab a bottle of gin but not do squats. COVID must hate kettlebells, he sneered.
I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it.
First of all, kudos to CBS for allowing Governor Walz to quote Matthew 25:40 without interrupting him and saying, I'm sorry, that's in it.
Carlson then went after Walz's legacy like a man peeling moldy wallpaper off a condemned house. Graph after graph, horror story after horror story, communities crushed restaurants, boarded up children trapped in glitchy online classrooms, while Walz and friends held Zoom meetings about reimagining community frameworks. Crime exploded under Walz, with criminals practically handed Yelp reviews. Minneapolis went from Minnesota nice to Minnesota heist carjackings as common as snow in the only. Safe Place left a cardboard box labeled "Do Not Loot."
But I felt bad for her. I was like, this is affirmative action. This is what it looks like. It's same with Tim Walz. He has that job because he's a white guy. They're like, oh, we need a white guy. And he's an affirmative action hire also. And you saw how afraid he was. He's like, it's not meritocratic at all. That guy did not earn that job. They're like, oh, sort of sexually non-threatening beta male, white guy, over 60 from the Midwest. You. Okay.
Criminals were handed surveys about their emotional experience, while dads who took their kids to a playground during lockdown were treated like war criminals. Rogan was frothing, your kid can't spell his name but knows 42 different microaggressions. What Are They Teaching? TikTok sociology, Carlson receipts in hand, showed how Minnesota had turned crime into an art form and safety into a myth. Parents sent their kids to school and got back undereducated social activists who couldn't do long. Division, but had plenty of thoughts on institutional bias.
When they decided that J.D. Vance was weird. Yeah. Remember that one?
And then they just weirds everywhere.
Weird. Oh, you don't want a weird guy. Meanwhile, you have fucking Tim Walz. Is your VP? Weird. You don't think that guy's weird?
Super weird.
He's weird in every way. Yeah. The way he walks, the way he waves his hands.
Yeah, he reminds me of the clown emoji.
He's a bizarre guy.
He's a strange dude.
I just don't understand why they made that choice.
Yeah, it gives the creeps.
I just don't understand why they made that choice. There's a lot of other people that are qualified. I don't know why. I read that Kamala Harris made that decision when she was sleep deprived.
Together, they didn't just criticize, they obliterated. It was a one-at-will punch of satire and indignation exposing every absurdity, contradiction, and smug. Soundbite Walz had delivered with a straight face, lockdowns, crime clownish, education, tax hungry. Policies, nothing was spared. This wasn't a critique, it was a live roast hosted by the ghosts of common sense. Walz had no defense, not a tweet, not a press conference. Just the eerie silence of a man watching his career get hit by a digital freight train.
True. No, this was your rank in the military.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't deploy for war. You didn't. Why are you saying you deployed at war? The weapons you used in war? No. You were in war. Like, oh, you were a head coach? No, you weren't a head coach. You were the water boy.
Yeah.
The fuck are you talking about?
I thought some of that was weird.
Well, he's just a liar. But that's what a lot of these people are. They're just actors who are ugly. And they're like, well, I can't really make it in show business. And I want a lot of attention. And I want to be a special person. So I'll do politics. I'm good at bullshitting.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, they're trusting. They're like, oh, he's saying the right things. If you say the right things,
Minnesotans noticed people started asking questions. Voters second-guessed their loyalties. Walz, once the golden boy of progressive governance, was suddenly selling his record with all the enthusiasm of a man trying to hawk a leaky canoe during a flood. Meanwhile, Rogan and Carlson didn't even break a sweat for them. It was Tuesday, another egotistical politician dragged across the media coliseum and fed to the digital wolves. When these two converge, they don't just expose failures. They broadcast them to millions with humor, precision, and a refusal to let nonsense slide.